How small tourism operators can compete with big tourism companies, Part 1 of 3. This presentation was created by Joseph Russell Tim Pugison. Tourism operators do not enjoy them. Tourists that spend most of their time just taking pictures of themselves at vacation spots and not really spending any money on what the vacation spot is selling. Tourism spots, however, are constantly improving their places to attract tourists by showing places and things not found anywhere else. The battle lines are drawn from one tourist destination to another, as all are now competing for tourists by duplicating the successful attractions of each other. The most recent notable example is one country in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has created elaborate attractions that mimic or resemble the attractions of other countries. Their intention is to first make their own people tourists in their own country. They want their people to spend their tourism money not elsewhere else but in their own country. They want their people to stay and not be tempted by the tourist attractions of other countries. They built arguably the biggest mall in the world to compete with the other shopping destinations of the world. They have a very large indoor snow park complete with a highly elevated ski slide to compete with the snow mountains of other countries. They have a very large indoor aquarium that houses whales so their people will not travel to the seas of other countries to see whales. These and many more they built to compete with other countries. Imagine the tourism revenue the other countries are losing to the mostly moneyed tourists of Saudi Arabia who once traveled overseas for tourism. They are now also losing money to the tourists who travel to Saudi Arabia instead of traveling elsewhere. Of course, China also has built entire communities that resemble the cities of other countries, including their tourist attractions. China, for example, has European-themed communities to enable its citizens to experience and or live the atmosphere of European life without actually going to Europe as tourists. You can actually have an experience in China where you think you are in several parts of the world, but in reality you are still in China. Of course, we know that the granddaddy of all this copy and paste tourist attractions is America, and more precisely the city of Las Vegas. To compete with each other and also to attract tourists in a place that is a dry and hot desert, they copied the attractions of other countries because Las Vegas has no natural attractions to market. One real estate developer copied the ancient glory of Egypt, complete with its very own pyramid and supported by statues and decorations which copied the ancient glory days of Egypt. Even the staff uniforms were made to resemble ancient Egyptian clothing at the time of the pharaohs. This is just one example of the things copied by Las Vegas. There is still the Eiffel Tower of France, and of course we have the aptly named Caesar's Palace. There are still more. No wonder Saudi Arabia, which is a country of deserts, copied it. They saw the solution in trying to get people to go to a country filled mostly with sand. They were so successful at it that now a lot of rich people and celebrities are buying real estate in Saudi Arabia. They are buying waterfront properties in artificial lakes, apartments in one of the tallest buildings in the world, and so on. These are all artificial structures still surrounded by sand, but people are buying them. Proof that there are people who can sell sand to Egyptians, no insult intended, and ice to Eskimos. Of course, there is nothing wrong with what they are doing. They just realized that they cannot solely depend on their natural attractions if ever they have any to attract tourists and investors. They have created their own natural attractions, like what Singapore has also done. Singapore also has not much natural attractions to market, so they created their own natural man-made attractions that people like. They are famous for their plant and tree garden parks, and they are even considered, if not the best, one of the best in the world. In fact, there is a growing trend to integrate nature inside cities because the people in the real estate business know that people now value nature. People do not only want nature in their parks. They also want them in their offices, houses, restaurants, malls, and wherever they stay. Of course, this trend of copying the tourist attraction of a competitor to steal their customers will continue. The old tourist spots will suffer, including nature-based tourist spots and small circuses, mini golf parks and other small entertainment spots with limited visual options and facilities to offer tourists. For example, tourist destination beaches known for surfing because of their excellent waves are now getting competition from natural and artificial beaches that can generate their own waves, like again in Saudi Arabia. There are even swimming spots that offer swimming pools that can generate their own ocean-like waves. The attraction of these newer surfing spots is that they can customize the waves and the surfers do not have to wait for the wind to generate their waves. Another example are the big new aquarium theme parks. People who used to go to the ocean by chartering a boat and then using a diving guide to take them to the best diving spot are being lured by these new theme parks. These theme parks offer what the ocean offers and much more at a convenient price. They also have sharks, whales, corals and other fishes and plants that can be found in the ocean. The difference between the ocean and the theme parks is that in the theme parks the fishes and plants are always there and tourists do not have to search or wait for them. Tourists also do not have to use a boat because the theme parks are just at the waterfront or on land itself. Theme parks are also safer. They have controlled environments for divers to not get lost or drown. I guarantee that if dinosaurs were still alive today there will be theme parks built for them just like in the Jurassic Park movies. It's just tourism money for business people. Old and nature-based tourist spots will further be defeated by movie-themed amusement parks. Of course, the granddaddy and most successful example of all will be the Walt Disney Corporation, founded by no less than Walt Disney himself. His cartoon movies, especially with its heroes and heroines, were so famous that people wanted to live in his movie world. Walt Disney knew this and capitalized on it. Despite all odds, he built Disneyland and the rest is history. Disneyland is still famous even today and it has spawned many franchises in other countries. There are Disneylands that can be found in several countries in Europe and Asia. The latest is in China. Walt Disney Corporation is so successful it has bought several animation companies, of which the latest is Marvel Corporation. It now has integrated the Marvel superhero characters and storylines in its theme parks. This is further proof that you do not need natural attractions to attract tourists. You can make your own tourist attractions. Nature is also unpredictable, which is why it is not so reliable for tourism. A nature-based tourist spot can become ugly in an instant. Examples are fruit-picking tourist spots such as apple orchards or grape farms. If nature does not let the apple trees and the grapes grow, there will be nothing for the tourist to pick and see, so there will be no tourist money for the owners of these orchards and farms. Volcano crater hiking tourist attractions are also another example. There are already several instances of tourists getting hurt because a volcano erupted unexpectedly. An injured tourist is bad news for tourism operators. Injured tourists can drive away the potentially next batch of tourists when these tourists hear that other tourists have been injured or have died in their tourism destination. Poor tourism operators cannot fight this, but they can attract tourists on a budget. These are the kind of tourists who have little money to spend but still want to experience the life of travelers, especially now with the advent of social media. People want to emulate the rich people who travel from place to place spending their money on the locale. They want these too and want people to know through social media at least that they are also having fabulous or interesting lives, unlike the boring stay in one place lifestyle that many people have. Do we need to explain why selfies have been easily adapted by people, especially the young? Of course, this is not an insult to the poor because even rich people do it. Now we see destination places that have no nature-based or even spectacular man-made tourist attractions but just facilities where one can take pictures of themselves. They have beautiful and creative backgrounds especially made to enable them to be used as backgrounds by people when they take their pictures with them. Of course, these places do not have a lot of advertising budget and mostly rely on the internet, social media, and word of mouth to be known. They may fly below the radar of big tourism operators, but it would not be long before they are known by them. These budget tourism venues will be duplicated too by the big tourism operators. The picture-taking theme parks are already being duplicated by big tourism operators. Just take a look at Saudi Arabia again. Of course, this is nothing new. It is just the name of the game. To be continued.
Reminder: I may be presenting you correct, incorrect, or intentionally misleading information for my benefit only. I advise you to conduct your own study and double-check this presentation. Thank you for your time. I hope you will continue to watch my other presentations. See you again later.